Now that we have a basic understanding of what exactly is a lightning component and how to create it, we'll try to go ahead and we'll try to look at something called aura attributes. Now you can visualize aura attributes as something which is very much similar to variables in your Apex classes. Now let me write down the syntax that we use in Apex classes to create a variable. We'll start off with the access specifier, followed by that we'll try to define the data type, and followed by that we'll try to give the name of the variable. Let us say the name of the variable is message, and then comes your set and get keywords. This is how we'll try to define a variable in Apex class. Now let us try to refactor this into an aura attribute. That is because, as mentioned, you can visualize aura attributes as variables in your Apex classes. And I'll try to make use of a new tag here, which is going to be aura attribute. And followed by that, we need to give the name of the variable. And here the name of the variable is message. So message comes here. And then we need to define the data type. So the attribute is going to be type. This is going to be string, and then I'm going to end it. So this is called a tag, and this is called an attribute. Pretty much similar to how we use tags and attributes in Visual Force pages. Let me try to repeat this once again. The tag is called aura attribute, and this is once again called attribute. And here the attribute is name, the value is going to be message, attribute is type, and the value is going to be string. Now I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to save this. So this is an aura attribute. And in case if you want to display the value of this aura attribute, the notation is going to be expression of v dot name of the variable. Now the v here is called value provider, and you can simply imagine this v as variable. And we can also provide default value for this variable or attribute. The way I'm going to do it is default is equals to. There you go. I'm going to save it. Now, in case if I want to see the output of this particular component, I cannot do it with what I've got now. That is because all the components are headless. And what I mean by that is individually, we cannot see the output of a component if you don't try to wrap it within something called Lightning application or a record page, so on and so forth. Now, let me go back to the developer console. I'll try to wrap this whole component in something called a Lightning app. I'll try to create a Lightning app, and then let me submit this. Just like how it created 8 files when we tried creating Lightning component, here it is going to create 7 files when we try to create something called a Lightning app. Now, let me close this. And you can also notice that Lightning app is going to have something called preview button, whereas your component is not going to have any preview button. Now, in the app, I'll try to embed the component, and the way I'm going to do it is C, which is the namespace. So far, we have not enabled any namespace, and the default namespace is going to be C, followed by that colon, and then the name of the component, which is going to be explore hello world. I'm going to save it. So if you look at what I tried doing, I tried creating a Lightning component, and then I tried creating a Lightning app, and then I tried embedding the component within the app. Now I'll try to click on the preview button, and this is going to show me the output of that particular component. There you go. It shows Salesforce cast. That is because we tried creating a variable, and then we tried giving some default value to it, and then we tried displaying it here. And here, let me also try to re-emphasize this. V is called value provider, but then you can visualize this as V for variable. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and try to chain multiple components within this component. And the way I'm going to do it is I'll try to create a new component. And this is going to be component 1. And within hello world component, I'm going to embed explore component 1. So this is going to be C colon explore component 1. And in explore component 1, I'll try to embed one more component. Let us say explore component 2. In explore component 1, I'll say C colon explore component 2. And then in 2, I'll try to chain one more component, and this is going to be explore component 3. So here I'm going to say C colon explore component 3. Now at one go, I can save all the files using this shortcut. For Mac, it is going to be Control Shift S. For Windows, I believe it is going to be Control Shift S. There you go. All the files are saved. If you look at what I tried doing, I have something called Hello World. Within that, I tried embedding one more component, which is Explore Component 1, within which I tried embedding one more component, which is Explore Component 2, within which I have one more component, which is Explore Component 3. Now let us try to look at how to pass data from Explore Hello World to Explore Component 3. Now allow me to show you how these components are structured. Let me go back to this. If you look at this, this is the component or parent component within which we have one child component, within which we have one more child component, within which we have one more child component. Now, whenever we want to pass data from parent to child, in that case, we'll be only using something called attributes. And this is one such point which I'll be repeating multiple times throughout our series, which is in case if you want to send the data from parent to child, we'll only be doing it using something called attributes. Now, in this case, if you want to send data from hello world to component 3, then we'll try to push it from hello world to component 1, and from component 1, we'll try to push it to component 2, and from component 2, we'll try to push it to component 3. Once again, let me try to rephrase this. Whenever we want to send data from parent to child, we'll only be doing it using something called attribute. Now back in the developer console, we have the component here, and we also have the attribute. Now by using some syntax, I need to push it from hello world to something called explore component 1. And whenever we try to push some data from this component to this component, we need to receive it in this component. For that, let me go back to the receiving component and let me try to create one more attribute here, because as mentioned, whenever you try to push some data from this component to this component, in the receiver component, we need to have an attribute. And here I'm going to say aura attribute name type, and from explore hello world, I'm trying to push value of the attribute called message. So the same value will be pushed to this, and just to maintain the same naming convention, I'll try to give the name as message once again, and type is going to be string, and then I'm going to save it. So we have a attribute at the receiving end. Now we need to push it from parent component to the child component. The way I'm going to do it is, what is the variable into which we need to push it should be given here. In our case, we want to push value to the attribute message. That is what we just created. So what is the variable into which we need to push should be given here, and followed by that, what is the value that we need to push should be given here. Now, whenever we want to get data out of this attribute, we have already seen that the notation is going to be this. So I'm going to copy it, paste it here. So we are trying to push data into an attribute called message. That is the only reason in the first place we tried creating an attribute called message. And then we are trying to push the value of this attribute called message into the message. I'm going to save it. For example, if I try to create an attribute with the name message1, then in that case, this is going to be message1, because here we need to mention the name of the attribute into which we want to push the data. Just because we are trying to push the same data from this component to this component, it is a usual practice that you'll find me using the same name across all the components, which is this. Likewise, if you want to push data from this component to this component, now this is going to be the receiving component, and in the receiving component, we should create an attribute. So here, I'm going to create an attribute. Instead of typing it out, I'm going to copy this and paste it here. So into this attribute is what we are trying to push the data. So here, the attribute into which we are passing should be given here, post which we need to give the value of the attribute, which is message, which is going to be v dot message. And likewise, if I want to push data from component 2 to component 3, then I'll have to create an attribute here. And then the attribute into which we are trying to push should be given here. Followed by that, the value of this attribute should be pushed. So this is going to be v dot message once again. Okay, that is because we have not yet saved this component. I'm going to save it and then come back here and save it. And finally here, I'll try to display the value of the attribute, which is message. Let me also try to display the attribute here, which is going to be v dot message. And then I'm going to do the same thing here, which is v dot message. And we already have it here. So basically, we are trying to push some data from this component to this component, and then we are trying to log it here. Likewise, from 1, we are trying to push it to 2, and then we are trying to log it here. And the same is the case with 3 and 2 as well. So let me come back to the app, and then I'm going to preview it. There you go. We see the value getting displayed multiple times. That is because this is being displayed from hello world component, and then this is being displayed from component 1, and then this is from component 2, and then this is from component 3. So successfully we were able to push data from this component to this, and then this, and then this. So this is how we can push the data from parent component to child component, which is nothing but by using something called attributes. That's all for this episode, and I'll see you in the next one.